राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंदना ब्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदना ब्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदना ब्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीर वनचारी यमुना तीर वनचारी बिहारी। जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। जय ओम विष्णुपद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद श्री अभय चरणारिंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नाम आचार्य श्री ठाकुर हरिदास की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौड़ भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंद राधा कुंद गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय। नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की जय। गंगा देवी की जय। वनामयी की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी रानी की जय। समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। इस्कॉन बीबीथी संस्थापक आचार्य श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। कार्तिक मास की जय। श्री श्री राधा दामोदर की जय। गौ प्रेमानंदी दीपावली महोत्सव की जय। जय श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णे स्वधामोपगते धर्मज्ञानादिभिः सह कलौ नष्टदृशामेष पुराणार्कोऽधुनोदितः। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च। श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणरघुनाथन्वितं तं सजीवम् साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुस्तुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvise Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Lakshmi Nivasa Madhusudana Madhavatvam Deva Prasida Mama Buddhi Bharam Dadasva Yasmadaham Kila Vibho Tava Balakirim Samvarnarye Chasatatam Pranepatu Purvam. Bilva Mangala Thakur prays like this: O Supreme Personality of Godhead, resort of the Goddess of Fortune, killer of the Madhu Demon, O Madhava, be pleased to and always give me the intelligence, full capacity to glorify your childhood pastimes after I have surrendered unto you. In Vraja Bhakti Vilas, Srila Narayana Bhatta Goswami has prayed to Lord Damodar as follows: Damabadhaya Krishnaya Matrisneha Sutayate Namo Damodaraya Iva Balakrishna Namostate. O Lord Balakrishna, I offer my obeisances unto you. You are the beloved son of your mother, Yashomati, and I simply bow down to you, O Lord Krishna, Damodar, whose belly has been bound with ropes. Today is, of course, a very special day. It's Diwali, and we'll say a few words about that. We'll also speak, I think mostly ISKCON devotees, or you can say they're almost more concerned about Damodar Leela on this day, because according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, this is the day on which that pastime occurred. So, in Srimad Bhagavatam, we have some general references, but in Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto, chapter 10, text about 38 through 46 or so, Srila Prabhupada has described the return of Lord Ramchandra to Ayodhya. All of the citizens had been as if unconscious and eagerly awaiting his return. And this is the day on which that actually happened, so they were all so joyous. When Lord Bharata understood that Lord Ramchandra was returning to the capital, Ayodhya, he immediately took upon his own head Lord Ramachandra's wooden shoes and came out from his camp at Nandigram. Lord Bharata was accompanied by ministers, priests, and other respectable citizens, by professional musicians vibrating pleasing musical sounds, and by learned brahmanas loudly chanting Vedic hymns. Following in the procession were chariots drawn by beautiful horses. With harnesses of golden rope. These chariots were decorated by flags with golden embroidery and by other flags of various sizes and patterns. There were soldiers bedecked with golden armor, servants bearing betel nut, and many well-known and beautiful prostitutes. Many servants followed on foot, bearing an umbrella, whisks, different grades of precious jewels, and other paraphernalia befitting a royal reception. Accompanied in this way, Lord Bharata, his heart softened in ecstasy and his eyes full of tears, approached Lord Ramchandra to fall at his lotus feet with great ecstatic love. After offering the wooden shoes before Lord Ramchandra, Lord Bharata stood with folded hands, his eyes full of tears, and Lord Ramchandra bathed Bharat with tears, while embracing him with both arms for a long time. Accompanied by Mother Sita and Lakshmana, Lord Ramachandra then offered his respectful obeisances unto the learned brahmanas and the elderly persons in the family, and all the citizens of Ayodhya offered their respectful obeisances unto the Lord. The citizens of Ayodhya, upon seeing their king return after a long absence, how long? Long time. A lot can happen in 14 years. They offered him flower garlands. Let's all turn off our cell phones if you haven't done so already. Please. They offered him flower garlands. They waved their upper cloths. And they danced in great jubilation. In other words, they were very, very happy. People don't usually do that unless they're really ecstatic. Even in our kirtans, we don't see so often people waving their cloth above their heads, right? They were really enthusiastic. This is the kind of love that the Ayodhya Nivasis had for Lord Ramchandra. O king, Lord Bharata carried Lord Ramchandra's wooden shoes, Sugriva and Vibhishana carried a whisk and an excellent fan, Hanuman carried a white umbrella, Shatrughna carried a bow with 2 quivers, and Sita Devi carried a water pot filled with water from all the holy places. Angada carried a sword, and Jambavan, king of the rikshas, carried a golden shield. O King Parikshit, as the Lord sat on his airplane of flowers, with women offering him prayers and reciters chanting about his characteristics, he appeared like the moon, with the stars and planets surrounding. Thereafter, having been welcomed by his brother Bharata, Lord Ramchandra entered the city of Ayodhya in the midst of a festival. When he entered the palace, he offered obeisances to all the mothers, including Kaikeyi, and the other wives of Maharaj Dasharatha, and especially his own mother, Kaushalya. Kaushalya Supraja Rama. Yes. So, he offered obeisances to the spiritual preceptors, such as Vashishta. Friends of his own age and younger friends worshipped him, and he returned their respectful obeisances as did Lakshmana and Mother Sita. In this way, they all entered the palace. It's a brief description. Bhagavatam doesn't get into the Ram Leela so much because it's described in Ramayana and other places. Now, Srila Prabhupada on October 10th, 1968, from which place was he then? Seattle. And he wrote to Hansadutta. He gave instructions, practical instructions. Diwali ceremony can be observed in the temple by illuminating hundreds of candles in different parts of the temple and offering special prasad to the deity. This ceremony was observed by the inhabitants of Ayodhya, the kingdom of Lord Ramchandra, while Lord Ramchandra was out of his kingdom due to his 14 years of banishment by the order of his father. His younger stepbrother Bharata took charge of the kingdom, and the day on which Lord Ramchandra took back the charge, again from his brother, and seated on the throne, this is observed as Diwali function. This is the original idea of Diwali and Deepavali. Deepavali means the same thing. Deepa means candles, and Avali means numerous. When numerous candles are lighted, it is called Deepavali. In India, the Deepavali function is celebrated in a special, auspicious occasion. This Deepavali function can be observed, anyway, this is back in 1968, 21st of October. We're not so far away. Okay, that's really the relevant part of that letter. So this is Diwali, Deepanvita, and we're already offering lamps every day because it's Damodar Mas, for which this whole month is much more famous, really. Prasiddham, Vraje Prasiddham Navanita Chaudam, Gopangananam Chitakula Chaudam, Aneka Janmarjita Papa Chaudam, Chaudagraganyam Purusham Namami. We worship him on this day. So we've already offered obeisances from Vraja Bhakti Vilas, and there are several other references we can maybe cite as we continue. What are our general sources for this Damodar Lila? How do we know about any of this? Of course, back from the dated anywhere from the 1st to the 3rd century, we have Harivamsha, which is an appendix to the Mahabharata. We have a secular literature from a poet named Harsha, Balacharita. That's maybe any time from the 2nd to the 9th century. This is how dates work in ancient India. 1,000-year period that they don't know exactly when, but this is how it was. Vishnu Purana. Whole 5th canto of the Vishnu Purana is dealing mainly with Krishna Lila. That's evidence, or it should be taken as evidence, that Krishna is actually Swayam Bhagavan, and the other avatars are much less important. Where do we see so much importance being given to the other avatars as Krishna receives? Not only in Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, it's far and away the mass of the Srimad Bhagavatam, but even in the Vishnu Purana. So 5th canto and chapter 6 in particular deals with this Damabandhan Leela. In the Bhagavatam itself, the Mahapurana, it's dealt with, of course, in the 10th canto, chapters 9, 10, and to some extent 11. There are various Nama stotras, such as Vishnu Sahasranama, Gopala Sahasranama also is famous here in Vrindavan, and other stotras of various authors. Kavi Karnapur, one of the early Gaudiya Vaishnava poets writing in Sanskrit, he has written his Ananda Vrindavana Champu, has a good deal about this. What is that chapter? I think it's chapter 6 there also. Deals with Damodar Lila. Gopal Champu, Jiva Goswami extensively describes and very insightfully describes all the sentiments of the Vrajavasis, especially his mother, Yashoda. Such a dramatic narration he gives us. Of course, we have the Damodar Ashtakam Stotram itself. We're singing every day. And there's a well-known Tika commentary on that by Sanatana Goswami. And there are so many other resources. I thought today that maybe it would be nice to look at some of the less known, or at least less discussed, sources about this Damodar Lila. So, we'll talk first about the Sri Krishna Lila Stava, written by Sanatana Goswami, because he's summarizing all of Krishna's Vraja Leelas in very short form, and he puts them in the form of obeisances. He's simultaneously summarizing the 10th canto, Vraja Leela, and offering us obeisances to each one of those Leelas. So we'll look at, from that book, chapter 9, texts 102 through 116, and whatever we need to fill out, there's a few verses that I'm very acquainted with from the poet Bilva Mangala Thakur. He wrote several books, and several apocryphal things are attributed to him as well. But in his Govinda Damodar Stotram, obviously, Govinda Damodar Madhaveti Stotram, there's 4 or 5 verses there that deal with this Damodar pastime. And I've at the request of His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami, when I was a BBT translator, I wrote a small commentary on that. So there's some, we can call it tippani of mine that we can also discuss a little bit. Okay, so Damodara. What does Damodara mean? Dama, Udara. Dama means your waist, the rope, and Udara means your waist. We know from the Damodar Ashtakam that Krishna contains within his belly all the universes. And that belly was bound with the rope of Mother Yashoda. How is it possible? These things are inconceivable. But in his Vishnu Sahasranama, Namartha Sudha commentary on Vishnu Sahasranama, Srila Baladev Vidyabhushana says, Yashodaya Jananya Damnodare Nibadhatvad Damodaraha. He's called Lord Damodar because he's bound at the waist by the rope of his mother Yashoda. And then he gives a quote, Sachatenaiva namnatra Krishno vai Damabanthanat Goshthe Damodara iti gopi bhi paragiyate iti smaranat. He doesn't tell us where it's coming from, but it's quoted by other acharyas as well. The idea is that this very person, Krishna, because of being the person who was bound at the waist, is therefore glorified in Vrindavan village as Damodar by the milkmaids. The gopis, they sing of him in that way. Sri Vaishnava commentator Parashar Bhattar has written a famous commentary on Vishnu Sahasranama, Bhagavat Guna Darpana, mirror to see the qualities of Bhagavan. There he says, Udre damani asyad iti damodaraha. That means, well, he quotes Mahabharata, Damani lokanamani hyudare yasya santi saha. And Damodaro mato yadva Yashoda Dhamabanthanat. The word Dhamma, we've described, it means rope. But Dhamma means other things also, we might not know. In Sanskrit, most words have so many meanings. Dhamma, another meaning of Dhamma is the word Dhamma as a name for world, loka, planet, society. He whose belly contains the world is therefore called Damodara. Whether she ties him up or not, he's still Damodara. This is why we have 24 different Vishnu forms, Chaturpuja Narayana forms. And one of those forms is also Damodara. If you're worshipping in Vaikuntha Bhava, then you will go to the Vaikuntha planet on which four-handed Damodara presides. But we're not interested in that. At least our acharyas are not interested in that, and we're trying to follow in their footsteps. We want to worship Krishna in Braj. And Sanatana Goswami, as we've said, he's given extensive directions and practical directions how we can do that in his Hari Bhakti Vilas as well. Okay. So, but Parashar Bhattar gives another explanation. He says, or he's called Damodar because Yashoda bound him with ropes. That's also well known. Devanam sukha samshitvat daman damodaropiva. The Lord has happiness for the gods, or the Lord feels happiness. Dhamma. Another meaning of the word Dhamma is happiness, joy. The Lord feels joy due to the glorification by those who are godly. In other words, when we perform Sankirtana Yajna, it gives unique pleasure to the Lord, like nothing else can do in Kali Yuga. This Sankirtana Yajna is the most mangalatvam thing, mangala, auspicious. So because he's engladdened, or because he's made happy by the glorification of the godly, therefore he's known as Damodar. This is his definition here. And then we have in Vishnu Purana, also he's quoting, Sri Vaishnavas love Vishnu Purana. Tatassa Damodaratam prayayo Dhamabanthanat. Or he's called Damodara because he's bound at the waist. It's the same theme. Evam Lakshmiya api sprihaniya chaturyopi sat yashoda damani galata jalaha samshrita vatsalyad babhuva ityarthaha. He became Damodara because of his waist being tied. This means that the dexterity also aspired for even by Lakshmi Devi, as it were, vanished into the ropes of Mother Yashoda, because those ropes were completely infused with her love, incomparable love. This is a Sri Vaishnava Acharya saying this. Sri Vaishnavas, they worship Srimati Lakshmi Devi with the same verve that we worship Srimati Radharani, and yet he has to admit. Why? Because even in the Bhagavatam it's admitted. Who knows the verse? Nemam virinchina bhavo? Nobody knows? You're just shy. Nashrir api angsa shangshriyat. Even not Lord Brahma, not Lord Shiva, not even Lakshmi Devi herself was given such mercy as Yashoda received. Prasadam lebhire gopi yatat prabham vimuktidat. Commentators tell us that this gopi is, of course, Mother Yashoda. So her ropes are only sufficient to bind up Damodar. What are the two 2 fingers. The devotees, what is it? Swanishta, no? I don't. Basically the devotee's own endeavor and the Lord's nature, merciful nature, the combination of these two must be there. And by the ropes of Yashoda, or some say the ropes of Radharani, because we heard from Indraduna Goswami already that this pastime happens exclusively in Madhurya Rasa. Also, for those devotees who just can't get enough of Madhurya, it's there for them. But just as Ras Leela is the pinnacle of love for all devotees, but especially for those who are in the Madhurya Rasa, this Damabandhan Leela is very much appreciated by the devotees who are worshipping the Lord in Vatsalya Rasa. Namo Ananta Leelaya Devaya Tubhyam. Ananta Leela. This is referring to the Ras Leela, Sanatana Goswami says. Because that Ras Leela alone is Ananta. You cannot find the end of its glory or its sweetness. No end to it. This is the pinnacle of spiritual attainment given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through his representatives, such as Srila Prabhupada, who has translated a good amount of the 10th canto. At least these early pastimes we have by divine grace, his divine grace. So, Damodaraha, Dama udare yasya sa yashodayara dva udare baddhaha Shri Krishna iti Bhagavadau prasiddham anena ashrita paratantratvam suchyate. This is what Ramanuja Tatacharya says in his commentary on Gopala Sahasranam, in which this word is also there, Damodar. It means he who has rope around his waist. Sri Krishna, who is famous in the Bhagavatam, we've already heard this. And he says it's nicely stated here by this pastime that the Lord becomes dependent on those who become dependent on him. It's a reciprocal exchange. If we depend on Krishna, if we place our entire faith and nishtha, our love in Krishna, then he does the same thing for us. Of all places, I saw in the commentary of, which one is it now? Mainstream Jaimini's Purva Mimamsa Sutra. The commentator points out that actually all these rules and regulations in the Purva Mimamsa school, the Karma Kanda school, all these things are only meant for love. Only devotees can understand that. The non-devotees, they think it's all about me. What am I going to get from this ritual? But the devotees see that actually, the eternal activity of the soul is just love, only love. So Jaimini, he was also a devotee, we know, from Brihad Bhagavatamritam. He was actually a devotee. But, for people who won't take to Krishna consciousness, this other stuff is there. Okay, so these are the meanings that we hear from the Acharyas about the name Damodara. Let's hear from Sanatana Goswami, what he has to say. In the preface of his translation of the Sri Krishna Lila Stava, which was published around 20 years ago, the late Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu has explained very nicely that Krishna consciousness only means 4 things. What are those 4 things that Krishna mentions twice in Bhagavad Gita? How to be Krishna conscious. What is it? Manmana, bhava madbhakto, madhyaji bhava, mam namaskuru. Yes. You just have to think of Krishna, have to worship Krishna, bow down to Krishna, etc. So, Sanatana Goswami is doing 2 of those things in his Sri Krishna Lila Stava. Sri Krishna Lila Stava is also called Dashama Tippani because it's summarizing and very brief comments he also gives here and there on the 10th canto. Okay, so Gopi Paranadhana further wrote in his preface there that devotees who are daunted by the immense size of the Bhagavatam or have little time to read it through can stay immersed in the nectar of the Bhagavatam with the help of this Lila Stava as a daily ritual of reciting the text and offering obeisances. I do this. You can do it also. Sanatana Goswami does it. Why not follow? So, The first 45 chapters of the Bhagavatam's 10th canto are summarized here, narrating Krishna's early pastimes up to entering Mathura and killing Kamsa. The longest chapter summary is 20 verses long. The shortest is only 2 verses. But the average is about 9 verses on each Leela. This Sri Krishna Leela Astava was published 20 years ago by BBT, but it hasn't been marketed very much, and many devotees have never even seen or heard of it. But it really deserves more attention than it gets. Okay, so today we're going to look at text, chapter 9, text 102 to 116, dealing with Damodar Leela, Damodar Leela. Dati niramantanadam pi savitri stanalolupa janani gita charita dati mantana dandadrika. What does it mean? Once, when your mother was just starting to churn yogurt and was singing about your pastimes, you grabbed hold of the yogurt churning rod, greedy for her breast milk. Anybody who's been to South India, Udupi? Raise your hand if you've been to Udupi. Yes, there the Lord is holding the churning rod because he doesn't want his mother to churn yogurt anymore. What does he want her to do instead? He's a Leo, after all. He wants all the attention. So, he indicated, Prabhupada writes, that her first business was to give him her breast milk. This is Yashoda's primary duty. So Krishna reminds her of this. This is the picture that we get here. I should have mentioned earlier, while we're at it, Guruvayur also. They're very enthusiastic about worshipping Lord Damodar in Guruvayur. Here we have Diwali once a year, and we light the lamps, also once a year, but for a whole month. In Guruvayur, it's Diwali every day. Every day. They're lighting hundreds and thousands of lamps in the temple, and the temple only burnt down once. About 50-something years ago, 1970, if I'm not mistaken. And even that was not because of the devotees lighting lamps. We don't know how it happened, but the fire started near the altar. They say in Guruvayur that the Lord comes out and plays in the temple courtyard at night when nobody's there. Nobody sees it, nobody knows. It's something like here, we have Nidhivan, and the Lord is said to come and perform his pastimes. So like that, who knows what he was doing. But somehow or other, after the deity was put to rest, the temple burned down. At least a good part of it, not all of it, but some of it. Miraculously, all the deities were spared. As if there were someone in control of it all, right? Okay, so Yashoda's first business is to give her breast to her son. Matristanyamrita atripta kshirottaragat ambika mrisha kopa prakampaushtha dadhibhajana bhanjanaha. Okay, we're moving fast. Before you had drunk your fill at your mother's breast, she went away to take milk off the stove. Then, your lips pouting in false anger, you broke the yogurt pot. Some say it's yogurt, some say it's butter. Most likely it was, Shikya hayangavastena navanita mahashana hayangavina rasika navanitava kirnakaha. That means, O you whose favorite food is freshly churned butter, you stole the fresh butter hanging from the ceiling, enjoyed its taste, and scattered the butter all about. It's not enough just to plunder that butter and enjoy the butter illicitly in Krishna's mind. What does he have to do in addition? He has to make a mess. That's what he did. And she could, when she came in, she could immediately understand there's butter-smeared little tiny small footprints. Like in South India on Janmashtami, they make the little footprints coming into your house, right? To represent Krishna should come into your house and stay for the whole year, henceforth. So, like this, Mother Yashoda saw these little butter footprints all over the place, and she just followed the footprints outside, and what does she find him doing? He had already eaten his fill. He had already broken the pot and made a mess. Now what was he doing with the remainder? He was feeding monkeys, the last ones that we think of feeding. We think usually of feeding Brahmins, and I invite so-and-so Maharaj to my house, but monkeys. And what kind of milk product is this? Made from the very best cows that Nanda Maharaj had. And she herself was doing everything that day because she wanted to make sure it's all done perfectly, and I know that only I can do that. This is the conceit of a devotee who has pure Vatsalya Prema. He doesn't trust anyone, or she doesn't trust anyone else. Only I can do it according to his liking, I know. And it's true, mothers always do know. So, she was so frustrated at seeing this because so much work. These cows are only fed scented grass. Anyone from Mumbai here? You know, they like to have lemongrass, right? Lemongrass tea we make. And so these kinds of grasses only, the cows. And the result is that you are what you eat. So the cows are producing very flavorful milk. And with that, only that milk, I think the cow's name is Padmagandha, if I'm not mistaken. That only with that milk, she's making all these milk preparations, and she had all this stuff saved up. Just like today's Diwali, no doubt, some of us are going home, and we will produce some sweets made out of milk. We've carefully saved up our paneer to make sandesh, or there's so much kheer to cook down, or whatever it is. This is exactly what Yashoda had done. Months of effort went into feeding these cows, collecting all this thing, and she wanted to make sure it was done right, and there she sees it all over the floor. And who gets the final result? Monkeys. So she was furious, infuriated. So, Sanatana Goswami continues. Navanita viliptanga kinkini kwana suchita navanita mahadataram mrshashro chaurya shankitaha. Your body became smeared with butter, and when the sound of your tiny bells gave you away, that is to say, she assessed his location by listening to the little kinkini. He has little kinkini dava around his waist and around his feet also, little small golden bells. Great giver of butter and charity, you shed false tears, scared of the punishment for your theft. Matribhi dhavanapara goshtangana vinodana janani shrama vignatar damodara namostvate. Here he's concluding his obeisances to Damodar. By your fear of your mother and your anxiety to flee, you put on a delightful show in the village courtyard. But then you understood how fatigued your mother had become. O Damodar, I bowed down to you. Dama kalpa chalapanga gadho lukhala bandhana yashoda vatsala ananta dama bandha niyantrita. The rope, your new ornament, he had a belt of little golden bells around his waist, mekhala. But now he has a new mekhala, rope. Surdas, the Braj poet, he glorifies Krishna. You're glorified with so many things, but when you take birth in Vrindavan, what do the gopis do? As soon as you've taken birth, they just cut the umbilical cord with a knife, wrap it up with a piece of twine, and that's it. So here he's also bound with ropes. Not ordinary ropes, silken ropes. She wanted to make sure because he's very komala, very soft-skinned. She doesn't want to hurt him at all. How can she even think? So she very carefully selects silken ropes. Ribbons from her hair, actually. It's described. All right, so we know the story. That didn't work, and gradually as the word spread, that people started bringing new ropes, and everybody So eventually he was tied up. But this rope was your new ornament. Your eyes are darting here and there. You are firmly tied to the mortar. O object of Yashoda's motherly love, O unlimited one, you thus became bound by a rope. And this is the end of the 9th chapter, a summary from Sri Krishna Lila Stava. In chapter 10 he begins, Drishtarjnata rudvandva kuvarastut shapabhita aparadhi samuddhara dayanarada gitavita. You saw the twin Arjun trees and broke the curse upon the sons of Kuvera, for you knew what Narad had mercifully told them in order to deliver them from their offenses. Akinchana jana prapya shrimadandhadya gochara akrishto lukhalalana jaya shri narada priya. Though gained by persons who have nothing, you stand beyond the reach of those blind and drunk with wealth, or whatever they may have, because you may not have wealth. Like the Brahmins, what do they have? They don't have money generally, but what do they have? What is the wealth of the Brahmins? Austerity. What else do they have? Knowledge. And they can become proud? They do become proud, let's admit it. They always look down on everybody else. Because this is the great danger of sattva guna. That, the sattva guna means increased awareness. No, not specific awareness of datta, just increased consciousness. That's sattva guna, as it were, from a subjective point of view at least. So when a person has this facility, he can see everything very clearly, and it makes you proud. So Krishna is able to cut down that pride. In this case, the sons of Kuvera were proud of their wealth, because wealth is very good at doing that. They were drunk with wealth. So, my dear Lord, dear to Narad, victory to you. You pulled the rope tied to the mortar. He gives a short commentary here now. He says, may Krishna become victorious. May he prove true the words of his devotee, and may he thus expand his pastimes. This is Sanatana Goswami thinking about us. He's giving these benedictions. Krita devarshi gitartha yamalarjana bhanjana dhanadatmaja satstotra stuta sarveshwareshwara. To fulfill the words of that sage of the demigods Narad, you broke the twin Arjun trees. Then the sons of Kuvera praised you with excellent prayers, O Lord of all lords. He gives another commentary here, Sanatana Goswami. The last phrase of the verse, Sarveshwareshwara, begins the summary of Nalakuvera and Manigriva's prayer. In other words, they're addressing him as Sarveshwareshwara. Kind of like the Nimbarka Vaishnavas here in Vrindavan. Who do they worship? Radha Sarveshwara. That's how they call him. Okay, so the finite living beings cannot easily understand your glories. This is the sons of Kuvera speaking now, after they've been liberated by Lord Damodara. For you always respond only to the mind of your devotee. Jiva durgneya mahiman sada bhaktaika chitta bhag asadharana lilohya vishvamangala mangala. The finite living beings cannot easily understand your glories, for you always respond only to the mind of your devotee and to no one else. Your exceptional pastimes hint at your greatness. Of all good things in the universe, you are where the goodness has its source. Swadasa dasata prita bhakta bhaktati vatsala guhyakarthita sarvanga hrishika bhajanamrita. What does that mean? You love to act as the servant of your servant. If there's nothing else we can learn from Damodar Leela, that is it. His mata. Anything she wants, he will agree to it. It's like he carries his shoes outside the temple wall. If you circumambulate, I'm sure you've all seen. Krishna's carrying the shoes on his head. He loves to do this. He has no purpose in life other than taking care of his devotees and pleasing his devotees. Here in the 10th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, in one purport, Srila Prabhupada says, this is why we worship the Lord as Gopi Jana Vallabha. Krishna, he attracts us, and particularly as Madan Mohan. Govinda, he engages us. And Gopi Jana Vallabha, he pleases his devotees, especially the gopis. Younger and older gopis, both. These are the two. What is that? Aradhyo Bhagavan Vrajeshtanes Dhama Vrindavan Ramya Kachir Upasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Yaklapita. This mode of worship that the gopis presented to the world, this is the highest mode of worship, according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Okay. The two Guhyakas, Nala, Kuvera, and Manigriva, prayed that with their every limb and every sense they might taste the nectar of worshiping you. Now we're back to Sanatana Goswami's voice. Shiva Mitra Sutta Stotra Santosha Amrita Varshivaka Swabhakta Viksha Mahatmya Vadin Prema Varaprada. Satisfied with the praises from those sons of Kuvera, Lord Shiva's friend, you showered those two sons with the immortal nectar of your words. You told them the glories of seeing your devotee, and then granted them the blessing of pure love. This is obeisance number 28, and that ends the 10th canto, 10th chapter summary of Sri Krishna Lila Stava. So, did anybody remember what did Lord Krishna gave some very powerful instructions to these two sons of Kuvera? After they had offered their prayers to him, what did he say to them? Anybody remember? Listen, you two have been liberated really only by Narad Muni's curse. That's the reason that I came to pull you down and liberate you from those tree forms. Because I saw the tree and then I remembered, okay, Narad Muni gave this curse and I should benedict them as per his desire. When it is the desire of Srila Prabhupada that we go back to Godhead, Zarur, we will go. Nobody can stop it. And unless and until Yasya Prasadad Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasadam Nakati Kutopi, how are you going to attain your goal? Unless he's pleased. There is no place that bhakti resides, according to Narottam Das Thakur, except for two places where bhakti resides. What are those? Left lotus foot, right lotus foot of the spiritual master. Sri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. And therefore he says, Aruna Kuriyamanya Asha. You don't have to go looking in Loy Bazaar for some esoteric books about whatever it is. You just have to surrender to the spiritual master and please him, that at the end of this life, he will remember you, even if you cannot remember him. And how can we can't even remember Krishna when we're chanting his name. What to speak of when we're dying. But he will remember us. That's why we call him his divine grace. Kiski divine grace. Srila Prabhupada is Krishna's divine grace. Any bona fide spiritual master, when we're dying, what is our chance? Nothing. We had recently this wonderful devotee, very saintly lady, Damayanti Devi Dasi, who left her body here in Vrindavan on Bohulashtami. And surrounded by devotees doing kirtan, her spiritual masters came and saw her, and blessings, that is what's required. Such a glorious end. We should hope for that. Okay, we're almost done here. He begins with text 114. Gopa vismapana krida bala sankati dehita sambranta nanda santrashta smita bhinnaushita samputa. When your young friends reported what you had done, the cowherds were astonished by your pastime. Nanda looked at you with great surprise, and your lips parted in a smile. Somebody sent me a picture the other day of Lord Damodar bound up to the Ulukala and he has a very sweet smile on his lips. And immediately I could understand. This is after he pulled down the trees. Here we have the confirmation. Patidarjana madhyastha moholukha karshaka gopashalas pashalila sanmadhya nanda mochita bandhana. You moved about in the midst of the fallen Arjun trees, still pulling the big mortar. It was still attached to him. Because he couldn't untie it. He can pull down these twin Arjun trees. Why couldn't he untie these ropes? Who has an answer for this? We heard already. Because Mother Yashoda's love was infused into those ropes. He was unable to undo that love. Why would he want to undo that love even? Nanda Maharaj came. He untied Krishna. This is a whole thing. We don't have time, unfortunately, to get into it. And I don't see a clock either, so I'm not sure what time it is. Okay, yeah, so we have to move on here. But the point is that he was released by Nanda Maharaj. Jiva Goswami has described this pastime so beautifully. Actually, in 1 hour we cannot say anything, really. We just can't. That's why I chose the shortest description I can find. But you really need the whole month to deal. Every day class should be on this Leela alone for the whole month of Karna, in my opinion. Dharma can talk to Panchagota about that, perhaps, if you agree. But it's just not enough. One day you cannot do justice. Okay, so all the ropes for tying cows were still to be seen on your waist, and Nanda released you from their knots. This is Sanatana Goswami's conclusion. Okay, so, yeah, maybe, I don't know, should I stop now and ask if anybody has any questions, or do you want to hear some more? Because there's so much to say about this. It's really infinite. Namo Ananta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam. No questions? Okay, one hand here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, thank you so much for such a wonderful class. I've been reading a little bit in Gopal Champu by Jiva Goswami about how Nanda Maharaj would give blessings to all the Brahmins on a regular basis. And it speaks about millions of cows.
Yes.
And just incredible opulence. Yet Vraj is meant to be this simple, sweet, devotional atmosphere compared to Krishna's other pastimes later in life.
Well, if you want to unravel all the contradictions that you find, let's be conservative and say just in this Leela alone, then for sure we will require all months just to talk about it. Because every step of the way, this Gauranga Darshan from the West Coast, you've heard, he recently released one YouTube, he's describing 13 ways in which Krishna's Damodar Lila is infused with contradiction. And every step it's there. So how, 9 lakhs of cows, but how is he giving millions of cows if he only has 9 lakhs? So these things are not conceivable, but we know that according to the need of the Leela, Yoga Maya supplies infinite. And all these trees, all the cows themselves, all the dust, it also, anything you want here, it's taken care of. Infinite funding. Can you ever find that in the material world? So, this is the nectar of Krishna consciousness. Krishna's pastimes are inconceivable, they're unlimited, and all incomprehensible things can happen by Krishna's mercy. Durghata ghatana vidhatri, Rupa Goswami says. He makes impossible things easy. Yes.
I think it's difficult for us to understand because these things, the law of contradictions, like you can't be old and young at the same time. You can't be inside and outside. It's like Hiranyakashipu figured out all the contradictions, and the law of contradictions stops us from doing these. But the difference is that we're subject to those laws and Krishna isn't.
Ahaitiki apratihata means devotional service is unfettered. What does that mean? There's no limitation. So anything, how else can Srila Prabhupada do what he did? What he did was impossible. Nobody believed it was possible. Nobody. Nobody was willing to help him for that reason. No faith. So when we have unfulfilled instructions of the spiritual master, we need to think about it. Why are they not fulfilled? We don't have faith. Worse than that, we have faith, but we're not interested because the heart is still impure. These are the things. So this is why we say, Namo Ananta Lilaya Devaya Tubhyam. We offer our obeisances to these unlimited pastimes. All right, so I think the time is up now. I should stick to the schedule. Thank you all very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Shri Radha Damodar Ki Jai. Go Premanand.